Did you know that some of Hollywood's most handsome actors once had hair that looked completely unnatural? In the early days of hair transplants, the techniques were fundamental, often resulting in more shock than the baldness they aimed to fix. These famous stars were early users of cosmetic procedures, but they looked silly due to experimental methods. Before we show you these surprising hair fails, please comment below to let us know where you're watching from. Now let's explore some of Hollywood's biggest hair secrets. Number 10. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra was one of the first major celebrities to have hair transplant surgery in the 1960s, and it was clear he had the procedure. The early hair transplant method took small round sections of hair from the back of his head and moved them to his balding crown. The result looked unnatural, like circular plugs in his scalp. Sinatra's transplant was so evident that photographers used special lighting and angles to hide its look. Close-up pictures from the 1960s show the pattern resembling rows of doll hair across his head. To make matters worse, Sinatra's natural hair didn't match the transplanted hair. The plugs did not grow in the same direction and had a different curl pattern, creating a messy look that was hard to style. He used heavy pomade and careful combing to blend the different textures. The worst moment happened during a 1965 television special when the studio lights made him sweat a lot. The sweat caused his styled hair to separate, showing the clear plug pattern beneath. Makeup artists had to rush in during commercial breaks to fix hairspray and powder problems. Number 9. Burt Reynolds. Burt Reynolds became famous after the golden age of Hollywood, but he is also known for his hair transplant issues that started in the early 1970s. These problems are considered one of the worst cases of hair replacement in Hollywood. Reynolds had several procedures that resulted in an unnatural hairline that looked painted on. The hairline was too straight and too low, which made it appear like a wig, according to critics. Additionally, the hair grew in odd patterns, and the thickness varied, leaving some areas with thick hair and others with very little. Reynolds later said that getting a hair transplant was a mistake and that he should have accepted being bald. He spent many years trying to fix the original surgery with more procedures, but these only made things worse. The constant surgeries left him with permanent scars and damaged hair follicles, making future surgeries even harder. Sadly, Reynolds' natural masculinity and charm would have made him very attractive even without hair. His rugged looks and confident personality were the real reasons for his appeal, not his fake hairline. Number 8. Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis Jr.'s hair transplant was sad because his natural baldness suited him well. The transplant, done in the late 1960s, resulted in an unnatural hairline that did not match his age or face shape. This made it appear like he was wearing a wig made from his hair. The transplanted hair created a thick, odd patch at the front that looked out of place compared to the thinning hair at the sides and back of his head. Davis tried to hide the obvious transplant by styling his hair in fancy pompadours and using heavy hair products. However, the artificial look was still easy to see, especially under the bright stage lights during his shows. The intense lighting for his performances made the transplant plugs look even more unnatural. Frequently using hair products and styling tools also harmed his remaining natural hair, making him rely more on artificial hair to maintain his appearance. By the 1970s, he used a mix of transplanted hair, hair extensions, and careful combing to make it look like he had a full head of hair. Number 7. William Shatner, the captain's hair trouble. William Shatner started his hair transplant journey in the late 1960s during his Star Trek years. The results were so poor that they became the subject of jokes for many years. Shatner had several procedures using an old technique called the plug method, which left him with obvious rows of transplanted hair. This procedure created a thick hairline that did not change with age. Instead of showing regular male pattern baldness, Shatner's hair stayed unnaturally dense and in place for decades, making it clear that it was not real. Shatner's hair looked especially strange because it did not age like the rest of his face. While his face showed typical signs of aging, his hairline stayed the same, highlighting its artificial look. The plugs were too close together, making his hair look more like a brush than real. This obvious fake appearance became a running joke among fans and critics. Also, the transplant left him with permanent scars, which made it impossible for him to shave his head completely, leaving him stuck with his unnatural hairline for life. Number 6. Tony Curtis, Some Like It Transplanted. Tony Curtis had many hair transplants starting in the 1960s and continuing for years. The old techniques left him with an unnatural cornrow pattern on his scalp. The hair transplants looked so obvious that makeup artists used special techniques to hide them during filming. Instead of looking natural, the transplanted hair grew in straight lines, creating a pattern resembling agricultural fields. The most embarrassing part of Curtis's transplants became clear as he got older. His transplanted hair remained thick and dark, while his natural hair turned gray. This created a two-toned effect that made his hair look artificial. He had to dye all his hair to match the transplanted parts, making the color look unnatural. Curtis focused so much on his hair that he had more procedures every few years to fix the problems from earlier surgeries. The constant operations left his scalp scarred and damaged, making each new procedure harder and less effective. Number 5. Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson's hair transplant happened after the traditional golden age of Hollywood, but it still used outdated techniques. The procedure left him with an unusual hairline that was too straight and dense for his age. It created what experts call a forest fire pattern, with thick patches of hair next to completely bald spots. This uneven look made it hard for Gibson to style his hair naturally. He had to rely on specific camera angles and lighting to hide the noticeable plugs. Gibson's natural receding hairline gave him a distinguished, mature look that worked well for his later roles. In contrast, the transplant made him seem younger in a way that didn't fit his aging face. The transplant also caused issues with his movie roles. Directors needed to be careful with lighting and camera angles to avoid showing the evident hair pattern, limiting how Gibson could be filmed and sometimes affecting his acting opportunities. Number 4. John Travolta. John Travolta started losing his thick hair in the 1980s, the same hair that made him famous in Saturday Night Fever in Grease. His early hair transplant procedures resulted in an unnatural hairline that seemed drawn on with a marker. The new hairline was too perfect and symmetrical, unlike natural hairlines with subtle variations. The transplanted hair also felt different and grew in another way compared to his natural hair, creating a visible line between the fake and real hair. This difference made it hard for him to style his hair in the casual look he once wore. When Travolta's career picked up again in the 1990s, attention on his appearance increased. High-definition cameras and better lighting made his hair transplant stand out more, leading to constant speculation and jokes in the media. Number 3. Elton John. Elton John eventually accepted his baldness and became known for his flashy wigs and hairpieces. However, his early attempts at hair transplants in the 1970s did not go well. The procedures resulted in sparse and uneven patches of hair that looked worse than being bald. He underwent the punch graft technique, which involved taking small, round pieces of scalp and moving them to balding areas. This left him with prominent clumps of hair arranged in geometric patterns. The transplanted hair grew in different directions and had uneven thickness, making it hard to style. John eventually stopped using hair transplants and switched to the elaborate wigs and toupees that became part of his unique image. These failed transplants led him to one of the most significant transformations in entertainment. By accepting artificial hair as a fashion choice, instead of trying to cover his baldness, John turned his hair loss into a creative chance that enhanced his vibrant stage presence. Number 2. Sean Connery. Sean Connery struggled with hair transplants early in his career. The procedures in the 1970s didn't work well and left him with patchy hair that looked unnatural. These transplants used a basic method that created visible, circular patterns on his scalp. The new hair was different in color and texture from his natural hair, making it look odd, especially in close-ups. Ironically, his natural baldness made him look more masculine and sophisticated. He appeared even more attractive and distinguished when he stopped the transplants and shaved his head completely. Connery's choice to embrace baldness was groundbreaking for male actors of his time. He showed that baldness could be stylish and refined, helping other actors feel more comfortable with their natural hair loss. Number 1. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando's hair transplant problems were hidden for many years, but new information shows that the famous actor had several failed procedures that made him look silly. The transplants done in the 1970s were so poorly executed that Brando had to wear wigs and hairpieces for most of his later career. The transplants created an unnatural hairline that was too low and straight for his face. They also left him with permanent scars, preventing him from going completely bald and forcing him to rely on more complicated cover-ups. According to one makeup artist, the transplanted hair grew in odd directions and had uneven thickness, resembling grass growing through concrete. Brando felt so embarrassed by the results that he wouldn't allow anyone to take his picture without a hat or hairpiece for the rest of his life. The sad part of Brando's situation is that his natural baldness would have suited many later roles. Instead of accepting his age and natural look, he was stuck with the fake appearance caused by his failed hair transplant, the technology that failed them. In the 1960s and 1970s, hair transplant technology was fundamental, which is why many transplants look bad. The standard method used was called punch grafting or plug transplants. This involved taking circular sections of scalp, about 4 millimeters wide from the back of the head, and moving them to balding areas. This method had several issues. First, the plugs were too big and had too many hair follicles, leading to an unnatural look like doll hair. Second, the round shape of the grafts did not match how real hair grows, which is not in perfect circles. Third, the method did not consider the natural direction and angle of hair growth, so the transplanted hair often grew in random directions. The punch graft technique also left noticeable scars on the donor and recipient areas. At the back of the head, the circular scars looked like polka dots, while the recipient areas often had raised, uneven scars that were hard to cover up. Many surgeons then were not experts in hair restoration and did not focus on making a natural-looking hairline. They treated hair transplants like any other surgery, emphasizing technical skill instead of achieving good results that look natural. The psychological impact. Many discussions about hair transplant failures overlook their psychological effects on the stars involved. Some actors became fixated on their looks and underwent multiple procedures to correct the issues caused by the original transplant. These failed transplants often made them more self-conscious than when they were losing hair naturally. They used special styling techniques, lighting, and camera angles to hide their fake hair. Some of these stars developed body dysmorphic disorder, becoming obsessed with perceived flaws and undergoing more corrective procedures that usually made things worse. Their worries about their hair affected their personal relationships and work performances. Many became reclusive or created complex routines to hide their hair problems, limiting their social lives and career chances. The cover-up industry. Early hair transplants often failed, creating an industry focused on helping celebrities manage their hair issues. This included specialized makeup artists, hairstylists, and lighting technicians who became skilled at hiding poor transplant results. Movie studios began hiring experts solely to ensure actors' hair looked natural on camera. These specialists created techniques to cover scalp scars with makeup, style transplanted hair to blend in, and set up lighting that reduced the visibility of hair plugs. The cover-up industry also involved photographers who knew how to take pictures in a way that concealed hair problems. Some of these photographers gained fame in Hollywood for their ability to make bad transplants appear natural in promotional photos. Learning from failure. The challenges faced by Golden Age stars actually helped improve hair restoration techniques. Surgeons learned from the mistakes of early plug transplants and started creating better methods that looked more natural. The experiences of these early celebrity patients highlighted the need for artistic vision in hair restoration. Surgeons found that to create a natural-looking hairline, they needed to understand facial proportions, hair growth patterns, and how aging affects appearance, not just surgical skills. Many of these stars also dealt with psychological issues, which led to better patient counseling and more realistic expectations for hair restoration. Today, hair transplant surgeons spend a lot of time discussing the limitations of procedures and helping patients understand what results are possible. This concludes our discussion on Golden Age stars with poor hair transplants. These early adopters of experimental procedures paid a price, but their experiences helped develop the safer and more effective techniques we have now. Their stories remind us that accepting natural aging is sometimes more appealing than artificial solutions. Don't forget to leave a comment. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time as we uncover more of Hollywood's best-kept secrets and biggest disasters.